Hello and welcome to Explorer Classroom. My name is Gina Borgia and I'm so glad you are joining us today. At National Geographic, we know the power of exploration, wonder, and storytelling can change the world. This Explorer Classroom YouTube show connects students around the world with our National Geographic Explorers for short lessons and time for your questions. Today, our explorer is Dr. Magda Bou Dagher-Kharrat. Magda is a botanist, which means she studies plants. She looks at plants' tiniest parts, such as their DNA, that we cannot see with our eyes and must use special tools to see. She also researches the parts we can see, like flowers, seeds, and how plants change over time. Magda specializes in a flower called the iris, which many of you might have growing where you live this coming spring. She has a contagious passion for biodiversity conservation and ecosystem restoration. Today, she is going to tell us all about royal irises, seeds, genetics, and interesting adaptations. But before we get into today's lesson, let's welcome our viewers who registered in advance and joined us today from around the globe. Our shout outs go to Visitation School, Falling Creek Middle School, Oakland Elementary School, St. Benedict School, Voltaire High School, X-Venture Homeschoolers, Masonville Public School, Rainbow Blaze School of Adventure, 191 Virtual, the Conjun Elementary School, Chelsea Public Schools, and the Fox family. We're very thrilled to have you here today. And with that, let's get this Explorer Classroom started. It's time to turn it over to Magda to share all about royal irises and their interesting adaptations. You can take it away, Magda.
Thank you, Gina. To my screen. Can you see my screen? Great. Hello, everyone. I'm really very happy to see a very large audience, and I'm thrilled to talk to you about my preferred flower, irises. So Gina told you that you might see some irises going out this spring, but the one I will be talking about are really very special. We call them royal irises because they are special, not any iris. These flowers grow in my region, in the Mediterranean, and especially in the Eastern Mediterranean, like in Lebanon, sometimes we can find them even in Turkey. So these are a group of very beautiful flowers. Let's see them together. So my irises are really large flowers, and we call them the goddess of the rainbow. So these royal irises have plenty of colors, a lot of species and a lot of colors. This one that you can see in the screen are very related. So they look like each other, but they have different colors and somehow taller than others. And what they have as a characteristic that whenever we found them, they are really scattered in a very small places. We will never find them like kilometers away. We have small population every time. And when we move from one place to another, like 30-minute driving, we will find completely new population or a new species. And since they are very beautiful and very big flowers, people are tempted to take them home. Okay, so they are harvesting a lot of flowers and population are becoming smaller and smaller. So these flowers are facing extinction. And with my team at St. Joseph University, we work very hard in order to save them. And we had a lot of projects to save these royal irises. And I'm working on them since more than 10 years now. And during all these years, I gathered a lot of information, and a lot of colleagues working on irises discovered a lot of interesting things that we will be seeing today. So these flowers have seeds. And in order to understand better the life of these flowers, let's put ourselves in these seeds' shoes. And we will live their lives and see how they grow, what are the challenges they face. So if we put ourselves in seed shoes, we might feel that the world is really very difficult. Life is very difficult to live. Where these seeds will grow? Do they found a good place to grow? They will find enough nutrients, they will find enough water. You know that plants are not very they don't have very easy lives. They cannot move very easily from one place to another if the environmental conditions changes. So these flowers will face a lot of challenges. And we will see together today in the slides that I will show you later how this beautiful iris will overcome all these challenges. Let's begin by the flower itself. As you can see, so this flower is as big as my hand, and they have kind of tunnels. Can you see this one? So each flower has 3 different tunnels, specially made and tailored for insects, but not any insect. They have this dark spot here that is very visible for bees. So bees will come attracted by this spot, but these bees know in advance that iris don't have any nectar to offer. They don't have any reward. While other plant will offer for the insect rewards, this one will not offer a nectar reward. So what they will be looking here? Let's see. So these bees, and more specifically, they are male bees. So the wild one, okay, not the one that give us honey. These are wild bees and only the male wild bees. So they enter in these tunnels. They know already that they don't have anything to eat, but they go to shelter inside. In fact, these tunnels are kind of a very beautiful refuge, warm refuge for them. But since there are a lot of bees and very few flowers, they are competing for this place. So before settling for the night, each bee will visit a lot of tunnels. And when moving from one flower to another, what they will carry? They will carry with them the pollen of the plant. So in this way, the flower will be offering a shelter, a refuge, and the bee only will be moving from one flower to another to find a place to pass the night, and they will carry the pollen with them. And by carrying the pollen, you know, for every flower to have a sexual life, we need to transport the pollen from one flower to another. So this is done here by these bees. I will show you a little bit how we do it manually, because sometimes in some population, we threw a lot of insecticides that we don't have any male bees. Can you see here how we gather this pollen? So these are the equivalent of the spermatozoid. Okay, these are the male gamete. And the bee, instead of me, will bring them from one flower to another. And when the bee will put them in this place, which is the stigma of the flower, then we will have seeds. So the flower will become a fruit. Let's see how it looks. So here we have the flower. It was visited by a male bee. And then the flower, which is made to attract these pollinators, once the job is completed, the flower will close. And then we will have this part that will grow with the seeds inside. We can see it here. And this fruit contains a lot of seeds. And these seeds, let's shrink this one. And these seeds, as you can see here, are around 50 per flower. And if we have a close look to these seeds, they have something weird. Just look at this. This white thing here, like a cap, kind of swelling at the end of the iris seed. And this one is full of nutrients, but not for the flower, it's nutrient for ants. What ants are doing here? In fact, the ants are attracted by this aril. They want to eat it, and they want to give it also as food for their babies. which are under the ground. So ants will take the seeds and will put them under the ground. In a good moment, they will eat this aril, and then without damaging the seed, and then the seed will grow. This is it in the lab. We can see here under the microscope, we see the seed, and this is Christina, who's trying to do the job of the ant, which is not eating it, she just removes this aril. Look how she will be doing. She will cut this white part that the ants eat normally. And after this, the seed will germinate. Otherwise, the seed will not germinate. So this is kind of cooperation between the plant and ants. So the plant will be like this, moved from one place under the ground, so it will have a nice place to germinate, and the ants will have a reward to eat. So after this, our seeds will germinate. So you saw me, I did the work of ants, or Christina did the work of ants, and I did the work of bees. So we know how to pollinate them, and we know how to germinate the seeds. But can you imagine if we, a human, have to do this job in the nature? We have here a very good example of cooperation between plants and animals, and how these plants are adapted. They do a specific thing for bees and a specific thing for ants, and everyone is happy. But this makes life sometimes, if we don't have the ants, if we don't have the bees, these flowers will have a problem. So this is the sexual part, but we are very happy to know that these plants, when the seeds will grow underground, we have also a vegetative part. Did you eat already some ginger? You know ginger? So the part you eat in the ginger is an underground stem for a given plant. And these iris have something similar. We call it the rhizome. So this rhizome will stay from 1 year to another under the ground, and only in the good season, we will have the green part of the flower. I will show you. Okay, this is a plant, doesn't flower yet, and this part is hidden under the ground. It's like below the ground stem. We call it rhizome, like a ginger thing. And every year, this stem will grow a little bit. Okay, let's see how it do. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So it will be growing under the ground. And every year in the spring, we'll have like the green leaves. And then in the spring, we will have flowers. But when you don't see this below the ground part, you are tempted to consider that every flower is different plant, right? While what you can see here is that these are the same plant, the same genome, they are connected. It's like they are twins, but just collated the one to each others. So let's see how they evolve during a year. So in the spring, it's the best season, but it's very short from April, and some population stay until June, so they flower. And then when the flower will give seeds, and at the end of the summer, all the upper part of the plant will disappear, and only the below ground part remains. Then, when you will have a little bit of rain, the rhizome will wake up again and will be very keen to germinate quickly to reserve a place. It's like you are going to the cinema and you have to compete to have the best seat. So by having the rhizome under the ground, it's like they already reserved their place. And when they have a little bit of rain, immediately they will pop out. So they say, oh, we are here, no one can come and stay in our place. They reserved their place. Then after they gave their leaves, sometimes in some places we can have even snow. It will cover the plants. And when the snow melts, a few weeks after, we will see the flowers popping out. You can see in this video this is in September after the first rain. So the rhizome grew and it gives this kind of green leaves. And this is the period when we can remove the plants. And sometimes, for example, in this land, it will be the change in agricultural land. So we were saving this iris from one place to another, which is very tricky thing to do. And when we are moving the plants from one place to another, or when we are keen to save them, we would like to know if we are taking the copies of the plant or if we are bringing together populations which are very different. So we would like to have a close look on their genetics to see how close they are, the one to each other. You know, for plants, we don't like that individuals from the same family will reproduce together. It's like in humans. We will not marry our cousin or our sister. So whenever we are creating a new population, we would like to have a greater diversity. So in order to have this diversity, we have to know more things about their genetics. That's why we take samples, as you saw how I did here, and we go to the lab, we isolate DNA, and we make a PCR test like we do today with COVID, but instead of looking for virus, we will look for the genetic profile of these irises. And we will compare these profiles, the one to the others. We can look also to their chromosomes. And based on this, we can have a better decision about which population we can bring together to save them in a given place. And for my last slide, okay, after having the seed very happy because it's a champion of adaptation. You saw how they did for ants. You saw how they did to attract bees. You saw how they did to reserve their place in the sun and how they compete for nutrients. There are really a lot of adaptation for these very beautiful flowers. So, but they cannot, unfortunately, beat humans who can degrade their environment and destruct it in a very quick way. Okay, if we come and we build something and we cover them, they cannot compete with humans. So that's why we are giving them a hand, we are helping them. And here we tried to conserve this iris in an archaeological site, which is already protected, by bringing back the goddess iris to this temple. And this is my job with National Geographic. And I'm very happy because we are making the difference and we are helping these flowers to stay alive and a lot of people to see them flowering. Yeah, that's it. I'm ready for your questions.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Magda. That is so cool. Thank you for showing us how plants interact with the environment and how the animals interact. It's all very awesome. And I'm sure there's a lot of questions out there. So it's the moment you've been waiting for. If you're watching online, send us your questions in the chat bar. We record everything you send, so you only need to send it in once. And teachers, please let us know who's asking your question so that we can give your class or your student a shout out. And if you're an on-screen guest with me, get ready with a nice loud voice and I'll tell you when it's your turn and we'll unmute your microphone for a question. All right, Magda, your first question comes from Donovan on YouTube and they are wondering, do all plants have seeds?
Yeah, theoretically, yes. All the plant, in fact, the flower is like the sexual part of the plant. This is where the plant will do anything to reproduce, and they reproduce by giving seeds. Seeds are the baby of the plants. Okay, so if a plant is, again, don't give seeds, like if I will not have kids, so when I will die, I will die. But if I have kids, it's like my genome, my DNA will pass from one generation to another. So all plants have seeds.
Very cool. Do you work with other endangered plants or species of plants and flowers?
Yes, I do. I work a lot of other plants, but the ones that interested me is the flowers that are really grow in very small places. So this one, if these places are endangered and are threatened by human for construction or roads or anything else, they will disappear. So I'm specialized in this kind of work to save these plants, but I have also a very big interest in forests and in trees also.
Great. Let's take a question from one of our on-screen classrooms. Miss Burnett's Batcave, do you have a question you can send a student up to ask away?
Hey everyone, sure, we do. Hang on. We have Kaylee Terry. Come on up, Kaylee. She's a little nervous, so. Hey everyone. So this is Kaylee, representing Miss Burnett's Batcave here in Fayette County.
How do you know what season to move the iris?
How do you know what season to move the iris?
Yeah.
How do you
We want, yeah, nice question. We don't want to move them when they are flowering, because this is a very tricky season. We are expecting to have pollinators, etc. We try to move them when we see them, so when the leaves are out, but before they flower. And this is a good time to move them from one place to another. But we really prefer to keep them where they are. We move them only if they are really, really threatened where they are.
Great, thank you.
For the question.
Thank you.
All right, our next question is from YouTube. They're out there wondering, what inspired you to study plants?
In fact, when I was young, I don't really had great interest in plants. I saw them like very boring and not interesting. They don't move, while I was more interested by ants, by lizards, by birds. But at one point in my life, I was somehow obliged to work on plants and to give a lecture on plants. And when I approached and I was doing some research and I go to the field, I discovered the whole world about how all these plants will overcome the challenges of their environment. Because animals, as you know, they can move, they can run, they can hide, while plants cannot. So they developed a lot of adaptation to cope with their environment. What I explained today with iris is a small example about what other plants can do. We have like carnivorous plants eating animals when they grow in a very poor ground, for example. You have some small orchids that do give some pheromones to attract bees and play the role of their mates. So you have a lot of beautiful adaptation in plant. And I discovered this world. And since that time, I cannot just stop loving them. And I want that everyone discovers these plants.
How can we join in your mission, teach others about the importance of seeds or just about the importance of protecting the planet?
Yeah, first of all, you should look closer to each life form. This is really an advice, because you cannot help or you cannot just defend or be an ambassador of any cause if you don't know it very closely. This is why I work on their DNA. But at your stage, whenever you are outside, any life form, you know, even the mosquito, even the worms in the soil, even the snails or some creature, every creature on Earth is a combination of a lot of adaptation to arrive to here today. So get this curiosity to know more about them, about the challenges they are facing to stay alive and to reproduce. And you will discover how life is beautiful and how life is rich. Just even if you will not become a biologist or an ecologist, you can be a bank manager and still have respect to life and this admiration for life. And you will find how creatures are beautiful and interesting.
Well, thank you, Magda, so much for taking the time to talk about your work and to inspire us all. And thank you to all the students and to the teachers who make awesome things like this happen for your students. I hope you join many of our events, including an upcoming show about searching for Genghis Khan with horses and drones with our National Geographic archaeologist in residence, Fred Hybert. Later this month, we've got details on an expedition to find the northernmost life on Earth and the kind of geology that literally makes mountains. You can register your student group for a shout out or a chance to be up here on screen with me at natgeoed.org/explore classroom. I hope everyone has a great day. Stay curious and keep exploring.